Hello, everyone, and welcome into IDP Underground. Apparently, we are starting off a little early, Matt. It was news to me. Sorry. Once
Yeah.
again, Streamlabs has glitched me into starting this early. I wonder if that started the whole thing. We're not supposed to be live for 6 minutes, but I was, yep, we're definitely here. We're definitely live. So,
What up,
guys,
everyone?
once again, we're 2 days in, 2 days into my Streamlabs career. I have two glitches. I was trying to trigger our intro and tie it to when I go live, and apparently triggered the live. So here's our intro. So, Matt, we were talking before we got started on format and some of the things we wanted to touch on and how crazy IDP's been for 2 weeks. And right as we were kind of getting settled into where we wanted to go with this, I started it by accident. Guess what? Baptism by fire, baby. You're jumping right in here. So, welcome to the IDP Underground on the FFAN Grindhouse Channel, a member of the FFAN family. I'm Aaron St Denis. That is Matt Monty over there. We are here to talk all things IDP. This is our first week. Not sure how long we're going to go. Depends on how many questions we have and how entertaining it really is and how good the week was. Some crazy, chaotic things going. How's it going, Matt? How'd you do this week in fantasy?
Oh man, this has been a tough start to the year for me. I feel like my head's in the right spot. Maybe I just need more reps. I don't know. It's been tough. We were talking offline here about just kind of how chaotic everything has been. Been a very sporadic start. Some stars aren't doing well. Some stars are doing well. And then we have some no names coming out. Especially in IDP, it's difficult to see those early trends. But like I said to you just a bit ago, I think we're going to start to really see some tangible, actionable things we can do over the next couple of weeks that are going to prepare us for the money weeks, the playoffs. So happy to be here. Can't wait to continue to do this. And I think it's going to be super entertaining. We're setting the bar high. This is an entertaining show because we're a couple entertaining guys.
I think I learned what I've learned most through 2 weeks is you can develop things all off season, but sticking with them when they backfire week one, whether it's lineup or in my cases, I tried out some new, we'll call it projection and rankings formulas. And I was telling you off the air here, I tried out some new rankings formulas for IDP specifically. Well, I guess across the board. And through week one of Fantasy Pros, I looked in. I was god awful. I looked in. So by week two, it was like, well, yeah, that didn't work. We're going back to the old ways. So I spent the whole offseason refining my methods and trying to get a little better because I keep finishing second and third in IDP and top 5 or 6 in kicker and DST, and I'm just trying to get better and all around. And week one, it was like, oh, I suck. Right out the window. Let's go back to the old method. And we'll, you know what the funny part was? By the end of the season, things could have stabilized here, and they could have probably worked out in the end. But with a week like that, you panic. It's like, oh, I'm panicking with all these rookies, and I'm going back to the old veterans on my bench. So, yeah, not my favorite start. Guess we'll start off with what I was telling you. I know we're going to go through some of the tweets you have, which were great for the various IDP situations of interest. The one I wanted to start with, I wanted to get your take on what's going on with the Pittsburgh Steelers. This was a Peyton Wilson 100% snap share here, and all of a sudden he got, I don't have the exact numbers, I believe it was 51 or 53%, and now Cole Holcomb, after barely playing for 2 games, he's suddenly in here for 47%. Is this just the coaching staff sending a message to Peyton Wilson here? Is it an injury concern, you think? Just poor play? What the heck is going on? And is Cole Holcomb suddenly relevant in IDP once again? It sounds like it's 2020 again. What are your thoughts?
Well, Cole Holcomb has always been, when he gets opportunities to play, an electric player. He is a linebacker one, no doubt. He fell off relatively quick when most guys do when they get to a certain age. I think what we saw on week one, he must have been hurt or something because he typically doesn't play 0 snaps. He's never been that type of player. Yeah, so in week 2, he got a little bit more, and then week 3, I believe that there was probably some sort of a preseason injury or something where they're slow playing him into what his role will be more naturally. And I think that Patrick Queen is going to be the guy that's going to be in their majority of the snaps. I think the second linebacker on the inside is going to get more of a rotational role, and we're seeing that play out in real time with Holcomb coming back. And I do think that if he plays a decent amount of snaps, he will be an IDP relevant player. I don't think his snap counts are going to allow him to be considered one of the best linebackers, but I do think as a depth piece or a bye week fill in, he has absolute value in IDP leagues.
It's not necessarily what I wanted to hear. I had hoped, obviously, like you said, it's Patrick Queen's the guy to own on the roster here, especially linebacker wise. I had kind of hoped that this would be just the Peyton Wilson as an undervalued guy I could grab here as the, a lot of teams have 100% snap share linebackers. I had hoped this was the situation, but I guess even looking in the first 2 games without Holcomb, so Holcomb didn't dress for week 1. Still not seeing if it's an injury. It looked like it was an injury, but they're not really specific. Didn't dress at all in week 1. Even without him in the lineup, Peyton Wilson was only at 56% snap share, 56 again in week 2 when Holcomb played 13%. But it looks like they both went down to 35% for Wilson, 37 for Holcomb. So this looks, like I said, it's going to be Patrick Queen is the guy to roster here, and kind of got to hope that Peyton Wilson can do what he did in week 2 and put up 9 tackles and a sack against the Seahawks in about 2/3 of a snap share here. Because this week his fantasy day was salvaged, but it was on the fumble recovery. 6 tackles isn't terrible, but it's not where you were drafting him. This is a situation to monitor here. Cole Holcomb, he was in my waiver column this week as a sneaky waiver ad because you're right. Go back to his days in Washington. I really liked him. I haven't liked him as much as he's been in Pittsburgh, but I really thought he was an up-and-comer and was pretty solid in Washington. He's 29 now. Wilson's 25. So that's definitely a situation to monitor. I don't want to invest too heavily. Like I said, I prefer Holcomb at this point because you can get him off the waiver wire. Wilson kind of scares me. Let's see who is in the chat here. Is Parsons did I show it or what? Oh, there we go. Our overlay is blocking it. Of course it is. Is Parsons IDP relevant anymore? Putting up poor numbers for me. Okay, I think he's IDP relevant, but he was one of my fallers after the trade. I did a whole article on risers and fallers from this trade specifically. He was one of my biggest fallers because he goes in from a situation where he's the guy. Everything's going to him. He is the centerpiece of it. He's still the centerpiece, but he's the only guy on Dallas who was a star, and he was racking up tackles, making up for what everyone else was, their shortcomings. Green Bay, he's still the guy, but they got some guys out there who are gonna, take some of the workload off of him to where it's not just him. Granted, I think his slow start, he's learning a relatively new system. He's only been with the team, 3 weeks? So he's got to kind of be eased in here. So I don't think it's necessarily going to be this bad. I think he's definitely IDP relevant, but I said I had him in IDP leagues. I had him as a top 4, 5, 6. He was an early first-round pick. I said this dropped into a late first-round pick. He's still IDP relevant, though, for me. What are your thoughts?
He falls into that category for me, the big name fallacy, where you know the name, there are splashy plays, there's highlight reel-worthy moments, but when it comes to trusting that to happen every week, he's a player that can lose you weeks more than he can win them. Micah Parsons, to me, is a perfect secondary piece to an edge rushing or your defensive line in fantasy. I don't think that he can be the one you draft above everyone else. I think, and I know his name is not going to allow you to get him other than in that spot, which is why I typically stay away from players like Parsons. But I'm with you. I think he's fantasy relevant. I don't think he's like you got to drop him type of a guy, but he's going to be a guy on your roster, especially if you try to build around him. That's going to frustrate you week to week. But he is going to have some pop weeks, and while he's not been the big name you expect him to be, he's not Max Crosby or T.J. Watt, but he is a player that is going to pop, and I think he's got all the talent in the world to be one of those players, but right now he's just not.
Okay, we've got a few questions here from Moggs, even though we're struggling to get the overlay correct here. I got to fix that. I told you I'm a Streamlab rookie. I'm a StreamYard guy, so I don't know how to get them up, but we do see your questions, guys. That one is thoughts on Malachi Starks, the safety of the Baltimore Ravens. I was really high on him. I think it kind of ties together with your next question, top IDP rookies to look out for. That's my top IDP rookie to look out for right there is Malachi Starks. He currently leads all rookies in fantasy points to this, does he? I think to this date so far. No, maybe not. Sorry, it's Carson Schwessinger's up there. I didn't realize that. Oh, and Xavier Watts. But anyways, my first one would have been Malachi Starks. I almost said Xavier Watts because that's the answer. Xavier Watts is the leader so far. What are your thoughts here? What are your thoughts on Starks? Who's your IDP rookie to look out for?
Starks, I think, is going to be great, but he's one of those guys. He's going to have to take some time to acclimate to a Baltimore Ravens system that asks a lot of their starters. He's going to pop. He's going to be a great rookie. He's going to be a player that is a defensive back in an IDP. It's really a dime a dozen. So he's going to, in order to be what I would consider fantasy relevant at this position, he's got to really be a highlight type of guy. I'm talking interceptions, forced fumbles, sacks, or he needs to be a high tackle floor type of player. And we're seeing early on he's a high tackle floor guy, and it's been 3 weeks. He absolutely can develop into something. And right now he's starting off, he's making it worth the rookie picks because likely in rookie drafts for IDP, he was going pretty high because of the ceiling that he has with his abilities. It's been 3 weeks. I think we should give him time more before we start crowning him as the next big thing, but I think he is going to be good, yes. And my rookie to look for is Schwessinger, 100%. A green dot, middle linebacker, JOK. You don't know if he's ever going to be the same. If he does even come back, the Browns defense is just begging somebody to help Myles Garrett out, and especially in IDP. And I love Grant Delpit, but there's nothing sexier than a green dot rookie middle linebacker. So Schwessinger's my rookie that I'm taking to the moon.
I'll go back to Starks quickly there, and I'm looking through her stats for this week, and it dawned on me he's the Monday Nighter. That's why. So it's tonight against the Lions. I think you're going to find. Well, you're right. It's dime a dozen for defensive backs. I think you're going to find that the Ravens are such a pass funnel that he's going to get some extra opportunities just because he's going to be targeted so often that he's going to be able to come up with interceptions and extra tackles. I had the similar thoughts. I like Malachi Starks. He's the guy I'm really high on as one of my top IDP rookies. I'll just go here with some of the top producers so far. We've got Xavier Watts on a young Falcons defense that I think is very underrated, and they're going to be something to look out for. You said Carson Schwessinger there, the green dot on Cleveland. The other DB in Atlanta, we got Billy Bowman. So we've got a solid group of rookies here. I can't talk, apparently. Demetrius Knight in Cincy. We've got a few others. Jihad Campbell in Philly. That Philly defense is so stacked. There's plenty of guys to look out for here. Travis Hunter's been very disappointing. Seems like he's had probably more value as an IDP player, and that's not saying something much because he's been terrible all around. We'll go to the next question here while I take the advice of Corey to try and fix our little technical glitch. Would you trade him, Malachi Starks, for Danielle Hunter and a 26th third? I'll let you handle that while I try and work this out.
So Danielle Hunter and a third, you said? I think I'm gonna go for the Hunter and a third. I know he's old, and I know that once they get past a certain age threshold, especially at edge rushing position when you have to have the athleticism, we start to discount these guys like they just don't know what they're doing. But we are seeing a trend in the NFL right now where older edge rushers are more productive. And I don't know if it's a technique thing, a skill thing over time where where offensive line play has deteriorated in the league. But the bottom line is players at that position can play longer now at a higher level. And I like a Starks, but like I said, unless he's going to burst through that top 3 defensive back ceiling, you can pick up his points in the aggregate just by getting big weeks while streaming those options, or maybe taking a tier down to pick up not only a draft pick, but an edge rusher who at one point in time was one of the best in the league. So give me the Hunter and the pick, and it's not because Starks is bad. It's just because I value the positions a bit differently.
That's exactly what I was going to say. Positional scarcity. That's what it came down to. I don't care how old he is. Corey, You're the man. That is exactly what it was. I had the overlay always on top. Thank you very much. Are we dropping a first for Travis Hunter and his ability to get points on both sides of the ball? You know what the hard part is? I don't have many leagues where he gets points on both sides of the ball. Like, I know it's in Scott Fishbowl, he gets both. He hasn't. I just had him up on my screen. Give me 1 sec. I don't know if I have. Does this league? I think this league has where he gets points on both sides of the ball. It's tough, though, because I'm on Sleeper right now, and it's only showing his offensive stats. So I don't really know what they're giving him credit for. I don't think he's anywhere near where he was going in drafts. Like I said in leagues, in leagues where he gets both offensive and defensive points, he was the 101. I don't think that's true right now. I think he's looking like, I get it's early. It's too early to give up on him. I think he looks like a mediocre receiver. And I always thought he was better as a defensive back. I thought he was a pretty solid corner, and that's where I wanted to see him play. I always thought he would just go to receiver because that's where he's going to get paid more. So what are your thoughts here?
I think part of the problem, we always worry about what rookie players do by themselves, and we worry about how rookie coaches are by themselves. Have you ever thought about what it would be like to be a rookie coming into the NFL with a rookie head coach? You're both learning on the job. You both are trying to figure it out. So while I am disappointed, and I was with you in the offseason, I thought he had a case to go over Ginty in places where he got both points. But I'm finding more and more that the industry's a bit sketchy on how they act like that. I'll leave it at that. I'm more of a big play, let's have fun and score some points type of guy. You guys can keep your old rules. But hey, whatever. As far as what Travis Hunter is producing on the field right now, I think he'll be better. I think he is a good talent. I think that right now, when he came into the NFL saying, I'm going to play both, it wouldn't shock me if he committed a pretty good amount of time to both. But a good amount of time to two positions as opposed to sole focus on one position, I believe, is the difference in the development early on. And I think that Hunter right now is showing us what a rookie who doesn't quite know what to do, how they would react in the NFL if they're a supreme athlete. But I think they'll figure out how to use him, and I think he will embrace that role. He seems like the type of guy to take feedback and then improve upon his skills. And if he does that, the sky's the limit for his ability. And if you can get both points out of him, I still think he's relevant to put in lineups because a corner that gets receiver snaps is not something that happens. So put him in your lineup. Don't overthink it. I'm disappointed too, but the theme of this show so far is defensive backs are a dime a dozen, but not all those dimes are worth $1. And I think that Travis Hunter at his peak is worth $1.
So Travis Hunter or a first? That's the end question.
I still think you got to go the first. All that pontificating about Travis Hunter, I still think you go the first because I just don't know if that's worth the risk.
Yeah, this offense is terrible. Another one here from Corey. Parsons for Hunter in a third. Parsons.
Ooh. Yeah, I'm going Parsons too, but that's a spicy one.
It's all right, Corey. You helped me out. Thank you. All right. I think we're out of questions for now. Feel free to drop them in the chat. We will start on our little agenda here. I'm just going to read straight up what your tweets are because I found them interesting. So you said Chargers safety Derwin James is the king of the defensive backs this week. 12 tackles, including 4 tackles for a loss and a sack. This is the James who is best in the game. There are a few players who have a peak as high as his, but recently the star hasn't shined as bright. It's good to see he's still got this gear. What are your thoughts there? I see you're back in here on Derwin James, the perennial star.
Yeah, Derwin James, when he came into the league, was being talked about like we're currently talking about Malachi Starks. He's a guy that had the ability to not only tackle at a high level, but also produce. He was kind of like a prototype body, so there was a lot of questions about, like, will he be able to live up to this hype because you have to be such a specialized athlete to play defensive back in the NFL. But I think specifically at the safety position, it's the hardest position in the world to not only get a good player, but probably to play in the NFL. You have to be fast enough to be able to cover wide receivers, but big enough and strong enough to be able to take down ball carriers. These guys are tasked with not only covering Tyreek Hill, but taking down Derrick Henry in the box. So I don't think that you can just glaze past the ones that ascend over all the others. And Derwin James had a period of time when he could stay on the field. He was one of those guys. It's, like I said, it's dimming a little bit. He's getting older. I get it. The way he plays football does not age as well as others do. But I think that we just saw that when at any given time he has the ability to do this, and if you have that in your bag, I have to have you in my lineup.
All right, moving on next, we have a interesting Patriots team. Patriots linebacker Robert Spillane is a player I can't figure out. You and me both, because I've always been a fan of him. Plays 100% of snaps in week 1, but accumulates just 3 solos. Week 2, still 3 tackles, but 1 is a sack. This week, he goes off for 15 tackles and a pick. He's clearly got a role in this defense, but he may be one of those boomer bust guys, not a guy to build around for me. That seems very true here. The Patriots have all sorts of issues here. Who did they have who was they had Christian Gonzalez was out with a hamstring injury. I feel like, did they bench someone?
Well, Kyle Duggar in the offseason lost his job.
No, I knew that. I felt like maybe it wasn't. Maybe I'm thinking of someone else. I felt like Christian Ellis was benched, but I think it was just a shoulder injury. He was limited playing time. But this defense here feels to me, even going down to Harold Landry, this seems like the ultimate boom or bust IDP lineup where there's 4 or 5 guys. Carlton Davis here on the DB side. There's a whole bunch of big names here and guys who've been productive for IDP leagues. And yet I don't know if I feel safe starting a single one of these guys here. Yep, Kyle Duggar, like you said, on the trade block. Yet he's still got 2 or 3 tackles and every. This just team has so much talent. I just don't know if I want to start any of it.
Well, Spillane, this tweet was more about like game theory to me because I think Spillane is, everybody kind of has a similar opinion of Spillane. When he's on, he's great, but that you don't always get those on weeks. And when I'm constructing a roster for IDP specifically, I like to build with tackle foundations and then sprinkle in players. It kind of goes back to the Micah Parsons point I made earlier. If you have Micah Parsons as your second edge rusher, you're the happiest guy in the world because you know that he's not going to lose the week for you, but he absolutely can win it. Players like Spillane have that week winning ability, but the floor bottoms out. And I think that if you pick the wrong week to put him in your lineup, it can cost you a matchup. And I hate having guys in my lineup that can do that to me. But if he's my linebacker two, maybe not so much, but my linebacker 3, or maybe a flex option in certain leagues, I can live with that because I can live with the lows if he's there. If he's my number 1 linebacker, that is a week-to-week problem I do not want to have. I'd rather somebody else have that problem.
I couldn't agree more. Hey, there's a question maybe you'll have an answer for. Any Devy prospects to look out for? I assume he's talking IDP. I'm not the Devy guy. I could tell you, a lot of these college players, like I'm a Michigan guy, so I'll watch college football, but I don't really start doing the really heavy scouting on these guys till draft season of their draft year, and I'm doing rookie profiles. It's hard enough for me to keep up with Devy prospects in general, let alone IDP. You got anyone that comes to mind? Because like I said, between taking over, running some content here, I've watched little to no college ball through 3 weeks. I know I'm in the Tadpole Bowl, and going into this year, I was dominant. I've won 3 out of my 4 college football leagues. I'm 1-7 in the Tadpole Bowl right now, and my 1 win came against the guy who set an illegal lineup. I'm not in college ball right this year. It's not going well. You got any IDP Devy guys in mind, though? Because I don't.
I don't. I'm not a big Devy guy. I just got into my first Devy league. Shout out to SC Romero for the hookup there. But no, I'm very little into the weeds there.
That's my Devy guy too. I started Fantasy Football Universe with him, and I just always said, "Hey, I need Devy answers. I see who you got." Yeah. Michigan does not suck. They're not. I don't think they're a national championship contender, but I think they're probably going to finish top 10 or top 12. I think they finished with 2 losses, which might get them into the playoff. So they lost to Oklahoma. I think they lose to Ohio State. I'm hoping they can get by USC, and if they do, I think a 2-loss Michigan's good enough to get into the playoff, where they'll get thoroughly dominated by probably Ohio State. So I don't think they suck, but I don't think they're great. This one is not nearly as interesting to me, only because the next name on your little list here, I love talking about this player. But here, we'll start with Chiefs edge. George Karlaftis may not have ever been on this list before. He's been good in his career, but I'd hesitate to say great. The Greek god of sacks, and you're a very poetic writer, I'll give you that, has only had double-digit sacks 1 time in 3 years, but is starting the season on fire. 16 tackles with 2 sacks in 3 games is a great way to announce yourself, albeit 10 of those and a sack came in just 1 game. Was that the last game here where they just teed off on
Yeah.
Russell
Yes.
Wilson? So is that a result of him being a high-level player or Russell Wilson being a statue that they teed off on? Because I know to the end of the game, I thought it was hilarious. They had 1 4th and long situation, and even Collinsworth said, I think it was Collinsworth, where he said, this is the situation where they're stacking the box and those defensive ends and the linemen are just gritting their teeth waiting to see who can pad their stat column with a sack. And sure enough, was it Karlaftis who got to him on the next play? It might have been.
I think so, yeah.
So what are your thoughts here? Is it, I don't want to say fraudulent, but most of the production here. So we had 6 tackles and 1 sack against Jalen Hurts and Justin Herbert, and he has 10 tackles and 1 sack against the statue of Russell Wilson. What are you believing here? The guy we've seen this week or the guy in the first 2?
Honestly, it was just a reason to get the greatest nickname in all of sports out there, the Greek god of sacks. George Karlaftis, former Purdue Boilermaker. I'm up in the Indianapolis area, and I always thought it was kind of cool that was his nickname. In all seriousness, it's an anomaly. He's been a perennial letdown for me because I did think that he would have a better career than he has had thus far. And that doesn't mean it's been a bad career, but there's a reason the Chiefs' defensive line is always a point of conversation outside of Chris Jones. That's because Chris Jones has no true help. They don't have a threat. They don't have a guy there that makes you truly nervous. Karlaftis, though, showed us that if you don't got the guy, he can get there. So it goes back to the whole, well, if you got this in your bag, I'm willing to change my opinion on you. He's still young. He's not old by any means. This Chiefs team was in a bit of a window where they're saying, this is what we're going to do because this wins the Super Bowl, and we're going to ride this bad boy into the wall. And I think we're about to get a Wile E. Coyote moment where they paint the big cave onto the rock and you're just going to slam into the rock. I think the Chiefs are headed that way, and we could see some changes, but I don't think that they're going to change any positions with George Karlaftis. And I think that if he can grow in that system as the Chiefs grow, he will be a perennial double-digit sack guy. This was pretty cool to see, and I do truly believe this year he will set a career high in sacks. But it has to be more than 8 last year, you know.
I love your Wile E. Coyote reference there, and it really fit because I'm having I was having visions of a cartoon character with an ejection seat because the little kid in me, the little kid in me remind me to press the button at the end of the show here because on my dashboard there's a little react button with a musical note, and I'm sitting there going, push the button. See what it does. But I'm sitting there going, if I push the button while he's talking, I don't know what havoc it's going to wreak on
right.
But the child in me is going, push the button. So we'll see if that gets me ejected later. Remind me to push the button. We'll move on to the guy I really want to talk about. I love this Dolphins defense. I wrote about this in, I think, a sit-start column, an IDP Weekly, a waiver wire, but Dolphins linebacker Tyrell Dodson was someone who had been under the radar for me. I was heavily into Jordan Brooks last week, and while he did perform decent, it paled in comparison to the greatness Dodson showed for us. Thursday Night Football, 11 solo tackles and 1 sack is as good as it gets, folks. Does Miami have the best 1-2 punch at inside linebacker in all of IDP? I think the way I wrote this was that there are 2 linebackers, like I had mentioned with Pittsburgh, that I'd hope both of these guys are 100% snap share every down linebackers, or 3 down linebackers, and I had really, really hoped they would both be elite. But at some point, the formerly elite Brooks looks like Dotson's playing so well that it's actually nerfing Brooks's production for IDP to the point where I'm like, well, I think I would like to drop Brooks for Dotson. Dotson's been that good with equal playing time. I see basically from your tweet, it seems like you feel the same, but what are your thoughts?
Well, I was huge on Jordan Brooks the last week and a half. I've been telling anybody who will listen to me how much I like him, how much I believe that he still has that linebacker 1 ceiling in him. This week, while it's not stopped me from feeling as highly on Brooks, I'm going to temper the expectation a little bit because if Tyrell Dodson is really this guy, there's no way they'll be able to support 2 at that level. But I'm with you. It almost feels like Brooks has been nerfed up because Dodson has been so dominant for IDP. And as far as NFL is concerned, I couldn't tell you if Tyrell Dodson's an all-pro level linebacker, but what I can tell you is he is playing 100% of the snaps, and he is producing at a high level statistically in those snaps, and that's all this game is. Find the trends, find statistics, and then get those statistics on your roster. Brooks is good. Dodson's playing great, and if he continues this, he has an absolute case to be a top 3 linebacker this season and going into next season.
The funny part is Dodson's 27. This is his 7th year. And through his first 5 years in Buffalo, he really didn't show any signs of life till his last year there, where he put up 70 tackles. He put up 107 in Miami last year. He's at 33 already through 3 games. Is on pace to set a career high in tackles by like week 10 at this rate. So it's amazing that out of nowhere, he's just kind of exploded onto the scene here. And like we both said, to the point where this week it really seemed to cut out of Jordan Brooks's production. So worked out for me. He was kind of a late round guy I was stashing everywhere. I really like Dodson, and I'm quite happy with this. But I think it was partially that I was never I know you're a big Brooks fan, but I wasn't a fan. And it's not that I didn't like his talent. It's just that I'm a Saints fan, and I hate any Seattle Seahawks.
I get it, man. I'm a Bengals fan. Don't talk Steelers to me.
Hate Seattle. Moving on here, we got Commanders linebacker Bobby Wagner, maybe the GOAT of inside linebackers in the IDP. Not only was he good when he was at his peak, his defining age at the position as recently as this past week. With 11 tackles and 2 sacks, Wagner is showing us that at 35, I didn't realize he was 35, he's just as effective at taking the ball carrier down as he was at 25. That's a scary statement. We're going to talk about Wagner in this defense. I was kind of worried that that's another guy there that's Seattle Seahawks. So I just naturally, like I said with Tyrell Dodson, I'm looking for the guy to steal the former Seahawks job. In this case, I was doing the same because I was hoping that Frankie Louvu would steal his job because in the end, I just don't like Seahawks. But that's some personal bias and some Seattle hatred here. What are your little more unbiased thoughts towards the second consecutive former Seahawk?
Well, it's funny. We were just talking about Jordan Brooks and how at one point in time he was the unquestioned linebacker 1. We forget those same years Bobby Wagner was also top 5. Bobby Wagner has been good for an extended period of time. And I started to short the stock a little bit when he went to Washington because you know how when they change teams, change routines at a higher age, it makes me nervous because you just get thrown out of rhythm. I'm 31 and I don't like when my routine changes. So I couldn't imagine being an NFL player that has to move across the country from Washington to Washington. So it was always a possibility that he could fall off the cliff. He has proven that is false, that isn't even a question. And he is playing, like I said, almost at a similar clip that he was at 25. Now, we're not going to see this over an extended period of time where he's going to have this incredible of a streak because I do think those days have passed him by. But he's got, excuse me, he's got the ability to take over a matchup still at 35, and people do not value him because of that age. So I'm taking him anywhere I can get. And I do think if you're in a win now scenario in IDP leagues, he is absolutely somebody I would target at the trade deadline because I do think you can negotiate his price to a fair level for both managers because nobody's going to get a first out of him, and I think he's worth way more than the third, and I think that's where the real dance of fantasy football begins. I like the salsa. Are you going to salsa or are we doing the Macarena?
Anything that gets me away from the Seahawks, man. So I guess call me Macarena. Can you hear me better now? It dawned on me that while I was fixing our technical difficulties, my mic was way back there. And I was like, oh, that's what feels weird here. I don't have this giant mic in my face. So I guess it helps to talking to my mic when doing a podcast. All right, next we got Bears linebacker Tremaine Edmunds is back. For now, with TJ Edwards down, someone has to step up at inside linebacker, and it was Edmunds in a big way. 15 tackles, 2 picks. Not much more to ask from an IDP regardless of position. He's a must-start player minimally until TJ Edwards is healthy, but if this is a normal trend, he is inching into set and forget territory. These I always find were 2 interesting ones. The Bears here, because I always struggled with who I thought would be their green dot player I kind of lobbied back and forth where I would go Edwards, I would go Edmonds, I would go back and forth, but Edwards being injured has made it easier. And Edmonds has just been Edmonds. This gets me every freaking time.
Yeah, it's gonna be tough.
15 tackles and 2 picks. That's good on 71% of snaps. He had 7 tackles in both the first 2 weeks. So that's pretty damn solid. TJ Edwards ruled out last week. Obviously didn't play with a hamstring. I'm not saying missed the second game in the first 3.
Ben Johnson called it week to week last week.
Yeah, it looks like it's a lingering issue. So I
Yeah, and when you
agree.
come into the season injured, I feel like it's harder to get better, you know?
I feel like Edmonds was a solid starter to begin with, but I think you're right. Yeah, he might. I don't know. He might have been set and forget for me, anyways. But with Edwards out, I think he's absolutely set and forget. What are your thoughts on here or on this one?
Edmonds is a player that has always kind of frustrated me because I think he's another one of those guys where he's not a big name. Like you couldn't just go up to somebody on the street and ask them what their thoughts are on Tremaine Edmonds. But if you play this game, you know who in IDP Tremaine Edmonds is, and it's a player that consistently leaves you underwhelmed. I think he's got a name that's bigger than the production. I think in a role like this where he's taking over for a TJ Edwards, he's an absolute must start because he can outperform weaker players at the position. But when you have a credible person alongside him, he tends to play second fiddle more than I would like. But I like your point to start this. The first 2 weeks, he had 7 tackles in each week. So it's good to see he's starting to make a name for himself. But Edwards had only played, I think, maybe 20 snaps in week 1 or 2. I forget which one he got hurt in. I apologize. But he got hurt. So we saw the production go up after Edwards got hurt. So he absolutely needs to be in your lineups until Edwards is back. When Edwards is back, I think it depends on your depth. I personally am not a big Edmonds guy, but I understand why you are.
Edmonds didn't play week 1 against Minnesota, played 30% of snaps in week 2 against Detroit, out again against Dallas in week 3. So that's something to monitor. One thing we can both agree on is, well, Edwards is out. Edmonds is a must start. Moving on to our second last player. Oh, an oldie but a goodie. 35 is the new 25. Levante David also had a monster game and is showing us that just because he has a credible sidekick in Servassier Dennis, I can never say that name. I think I got it right this time. Doesn't mean he can't still be a top player at the position. 11 tackles and a sack on the week, paired with a juicy upcoming schedule, including 7 straight games against the back half of the league with linebacker points against. David is going to have a big stretch here that should set up managers for great weeks. I like what you have to say there. What else is it? Why are y'all in on the veteran? He is now 35 years old, as you said, still with Tampa. He spent his entire 14 years. He's been with Tampa the whole damn time. Wow.
It's awesome. So Levante David is a poor man's version of Bobby Wagner. At his peak, Levante David was another guy who you could argue was the linebacker 1 in all of IDP, but he's 35 years old now, and those days are gone. But we're seeing that he is still a highly productive linebacker 2 with linebacker 1 upside. Every time he's in your lineup, you're going to see the name, you're going to think big points, and you're not always going to get it. It goes back to kind of how I play the game. I like to build foundationally with tackle floors and then sprinkle in big play guys once I feel like I've got a competitive lineup. Levante David is the perfect veteran piece for your team to stabilize the tackle floor because he just tackles ball every time he sees it. See ball, hit ball, and that is what Levante David does. He does it good still, maybe not to the 2014, 2015 days, but in 2025, he is still a relevant starter in IDP and can help you win matchups. So I like him a lot. That's why I said 35 is the new 25. Come on, man. He's feeling good. We should feel good for him.
All right. Unless we have more questions, we will close it out with one more here. Another veteran, Edge Brian Burns. It is time I own to being a hater here. He has had an electric start to the season with 15 tackles, 4 sacks, 3 passes defended in just 3 games. He's had a favorable schedule to start, so I'm not selling the farm for him just yet, but at 27 years old, we could be seeing the prime for Burns, who has always had top-of-the-league talent. If he eliminates those stretches where he disappears, which was a big thing, we could be seeing a new top-of-the-league talent at edge rusher. What else you got to say,
Burns, man? Yeah. He's one of those guys. He's like Micah Parsons light. you love the name, you love how young he is, and when he has those pop games, it's like, oh man, it's like the girl across the bar giving you eyes. It's like, oh, I want to say, hey, what's up? That's what Brian Burns does to me every time he has that big game. And then I start him for 3 weeks, and he has a combined 2 tackles. You have to see him put this together consistently in order to buy in. We're 3 games into a new season. Everybody still has hope. The New York media hasn't beaten the Giants down too bad, although we've seen both New York teams not have a win in the first 3 weeks. So I'm sure that media is going to be extra hot this week.
Yeah.
Brian Burns has always had the talent. He's never had the consistency. He's got credible pass rushers around him on this defensive line. And I think that if they can all kind of, as a unit, be a more cohesive group, he will get more one-on-one opportunities. And clearly, we can see he can win one-on-one. So you need Sexy Dexy to get going, and you need Thibodeau to get going. If all 3 of those guys are having a Sunday, it's anybody's ball game, and I'll take Brian Burns' experience with his talent to get to the quarterback more often than not. So I'm in on Burns this year. It's been 3 weeks. I'm sure we'll check back in 3 or 4, and we'll look at this and say, man, we were so right about Burns being the next big thing.
Yeah. Is there such thing as best ball IDP leagues? Because he looks like a target. You look through his like end of year stats over his career, and they look solid but not great until you click on them and expand to a game by game, and then you'll see where it's like elite, elite, disappear, 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 elite, disappear, over and over. So in the end, it's a what looks to be solid, consistent level of production every year. But if you look at it on a game-to-game basis, it's really out there. And I guess that's kind of like the wide receiver position on the offensive side. IDP is inherently volatile.
Yes.
Except for I find the most consistent of the green dot linebackers. And that's why I always say in any league, I always prioritize the D linemen or D ends who are going to play every snap or as many as they can, and the green dot players. I write an article on the green dot players at linebacker every year because that's the way to. They're like the green dot linebackers are the consistent bell cow running back version of IDP, whereas some of the DLs and they're more like the boomer bust receivers, and then you get those defensive backs where they're tight end, get 1 or 2.
There's a lot more Marquez Valdez-Scantlings than there are Jamar Chases on defense.
Ain't that the truth? All right, well, unless you have something else you want to touch on here, that pretty much wraps up a very thorough week 3 thread that you posted there. Really enjoyed that.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity to get to talk about it with you. Our first show together. Looking forward to many more.
All right. Well, thank you. I appreciate it. Everyone. Well, very, very knowledgeable. We will be back at this time slot every week. That would be Monday at 7 p.m. Eastern. I mean, we won't go live 5 minutes early. You can also check back if you want to see some more of me. I will be over on the main FFAN channel at 10 o'clock as we are doing Last Call. Me and Greg Kramer. We are live reacting to the Baltimore-Detroit game and doing a little wrap on the offensive side of the ball. I am also live tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. on the FFAN Grindhouse Channel, where it's me solo doing the waiver wire for the week. So I'm all over the place. I got 4 shows in about 26 hours with a different host in each one. Before we get out of here, I'd like to thank everyone who dropped a question in the chat. Corey for helping me out with the design here. And then before we leave, I'd like to see what this button does. So if this crashes the stream, take care and have a great night. Oh, I see. We've got. Hey. I like it.
To do wacky noises.
Yeah, it's got a whole noise bar here, about 8 or 10 of them. I like that. That's solid. All right, everyone. Thank you for tuning in to IDP Underground. We'll catch you next time. Thanks, Matt. Have a great night. If I could find our